Hello everyone, welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to talk about autopilot cluster. In the previous videos, we have seen standard cluster, how to create that. In this, we cover about autopilot. So basically, in GKE, autopilot is a mode of operation in which Google manage your infrastructure configuration, including your nodes, scaling, security, and other pre-configured settings. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to manage your cluster even. Google will take care of everything like your nodes upgrades, your scaling, your security, and everything will be taken care by Google. And your autopilot mode is optimized to run most production workloads. Compute resources are automatically provisioned from Kubernetes manifest. So like if you define I want 4 pods and which I need 2 GB of RAM and 1 CPU. According to that, your compute resources will be provisioned by Kubernetes depending on your manifest, and you only define pod, CPU, and memory. You don't need to define any nodes. Nodes are created and resized automatically. And there are many benefits like for using autopilot cluster. First of all, you can focus on your application workloads. So like if Google manage your infrastructure, so you can focus on building and deploying your application, and there is no node or node pool management. So Google manage your worker nodes, so you don't have to create new nodes to accommodate your workloads or configure automatic upgrades or repair or something like that. And it has built-in security and best practices. So like autopilot cluster have a kind of default hardened configuration with many security settings that are enabled by default. And GKE automatically applies security patches to your nodes when they are available. And it also like adhere to any maintenance schedule which you have configured, like you want security patches applied on a specific date or you want any exclusions also, you can create maintenance exclusions. And after that, automatic scaling and scheduling we have, in which when your workloads experience high load or you want to add more pods to accommodate that traffic, such as you can use Kubernetes horizontal pod scaling. So based on that, Google automatically provision new nodes for your pods and automatically expand the resources in your existing nodes based on your needs. And Autopilot also manage bin packing for you. We have also talked about like you don't have to think like how many pods are running on each node. You can further control like pod placement by using Kubernetes mechanisms such as affinity and pod spread topology. And after that, we have reduced operational complexity like Autopilot reduce like platform administration overhead by removing the need of like continuing monitoring the node, scaling and scheduling operation. And it is production ready by default. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to create any specific thing, deploy the app on your autopilot cluster. So for the pricing terms, if you see autopilot pricing use different models depending on the type of hardware you want to use. So first of all, we have general purpose autopilot pods in which these type of pod use a pod-based billing model and as characterized as general purpose pods. So if your pods that run on the container optimized compute platform in automatic clusters or standard cluster, as you know, we can run autopilot mode in standard cluster also. For that, you have to pay per pod. You have the per pod-based billing. So if you are running 10 pods, you have to pay for 10 pods. If you are running 1 pod, so you have to pay for a 1 pod. And pod that is select the balance or scale out built-in compute class are also come under general purpose. So there are some compute classes in which all the configuration is defined, like which compute we want to use, like standard one, scale out one. These all the configuration are defined. We will see in future lecture about that. After that, we have autopilot workloads that select specific hardware. Suppose you need you have some pods that needs some specific select hardware, such as hardware accelerators or any GPU or TPU. So then you have to pay per node based billing model. In this, you pay for the underlying hardware and the node management premium. So if you want to use your autopilot for your simple workloads, then you have to go with pod based billing. But if you need any specific hardware which is not covered under general purpose, then you have to pay per node. So this is the main difference in pricing and in scaling terms how your GK cluster or autopilot cluster scale. So in Autopilot, GK automatically scales your nodes based on the number of pod in your cluster. So there if there are low number of pods, it will run smoothly. If there are more number of pods, suppose you are using horizontal pod autoscaler and traffic is increasing and your new pods cannot be scheduled on the existing nodes. So based on that, Autopilot will scale your nodes. After that, if a cluster has no running workload, Autopilot can scale down the cluster to zero or like up to zero nodes. So like you have deleted all the pods which are running. So Autopilot will scale down your cluster to zero. So you will find there are no nodes running for your worker nodes. And following the cluster scale down, no nodes remain in the cluster and system pods are constantly in unsuitable state. So system pods basically like your kubectl, kubeproxy are will be on pending state. I will show you what will happen there. And when you create a new autopilot cluster, you might notice that the first workloads you try to deploy take more time to schedule because until you deploy something like Google, like Autopilot will not create a node. So you have created Autopilot cluster and it is a new cluster. And once you deploy a application, then only Google will create some nodes for your GKE cluster and all the system ports will be remaining pending state only. And this is because like new autopilot clusters start with zero usable nodes upon creation and it will wait until you deploy a workload to provision additional nodes. So it can be possible you have created a new cluster and you run kubectl get nodes and you see there is no nodes, but that is not an issue. It will create the nodes as you start deploying your applications on the cluster. Also, you will never see any nodes running in the compute engine because it is managed by Google and they don't want to show you like which machine they are running or they don't want to provide you the access also. So by mistake someone log in into the machine and create some configuration changes. That's why if you want to do that, go with the standard cluster. For autopilot cluster, everything is behind the scenes. You just deploy the cluster and run your application on that specific cluster. So let's go to console and see how it is different with standard cluster. So I'm in my console. Now let's click on a create cluster and you can see autopilot is a recommended one. So let's click on configure. So in this there's not much option but we have some option. Let's see that. First of all you have to provide a name. You have to provide a region. There is no zonal cluster. You have to remember like in standard you have a zonal cluster. But in autopilot there is always a regional cluster. You cannot create a specific zone like so that's the one main difference between your standard and autopilot cluster. There is something called fleet we will discuss later on. And let's go to networking part. In networking, you have some options like you can define which network you want to run this cluster, enable private nodes if you don't want your nodes have a public IP address, and you can define all these things. So networking we will look later on because I'm just creating a basic video on autopilot. And let's go to advanced settings. So in that also you have some options like release version we can choose rapid, regular or stable. So regular is recommended and we have discussed how these release channels work in my previous videos. And we have automation part. You can enable like a maintenance window when the maintenance will happen. All that maintenance exclusion you can create. Service mesh we have security in that you can define like your compute engine service account. If you want to use any different service account you can define that also. We have many options in that also like AI machine learning you want to use any operations like you can define that also metadata. After that we have the option of review and create. So just create it. Mostly options are like advanced setting are according to autopilot security options only. So if you want any option to enable or disable just check this option inside this and you can do anything what you want in advanced setting. You will find many options. So according to that, any feature you want, you can enable or disable. Like if you want binary authorizations, enable secret manager, all you can done. Now let's create a cluster. We will see all these options in future videos because each uh, feature requires a one video. So I'm going to click on create a cluster. It will take some time. Let's wait. So our cluster has been created. Now you can see if you go in some things here, we can go to details and we will find out there is no node option like node pools anything like that. We have some cluster basic like it is a mode, it is a autopilot cluster. Location type is regional, it is in default node zones, so it is in 4 zones. And release channel is there, we can upgrade all these things. And current COSS version, all this, the date upgrades are, if any status pause, all these things, automation, control plane networking. But we will not find anything related to your node pool because it is all by Google manage. Now let's go to storage also. Let's see what are the storage option we have. So in this, so it will show you all the storage class which is available for you. Like we have file store, parallel store, and persistent disk, all these are available to create your, if you want to create a persistent volumes. And then observability logs and app errors, all these things we have. Now let's connect to our cluster. I will run this command in Cloud Shell, and after that let's see what the options we are getting. So let me run this command like kubectl get pods -l on namespaces. Let's see all the pods which are available. So we can see some pods are running, some are pending, and we can see like as of now we have some like in kube system namespace. So let's run kubectl get nodes. We can see we have a node and it has a status is not ready, and we haven't deployed any application as of now. So when this node will be deleted, or I think it will be gone away in a few minutes. So let's wait for some time, and after that you will see. So you can see that this node is not no more available. If I run again kubectl get pods all namespaces, you can see all the pods are now pending status. It is pending because there is no application is running on my cluster. That's why all the specific only worker node that is available, that is also been shut down. As you have remember, we have seen here. If you see, if a cluster has no running workloads, Autopilot can automatically scale down a cluster to 0 nodes, and following the cluster scale down, no nodes remain in the cluster and system pods are consequently in unsuitable state. Unsuitable means pending state. And if you create new Autopilot cluster, you might notice that the first workload that you deploy take more time to schedule. That's why these are all in pending state, and we don't have deployed any application. So that our node is also been deleted. So I have an application. Let me do cat deploy.yml. In this, I'm going to create an nginx deployment, 2 replicas, nothing much. So let's deploy this and let's see what will happen there after that. Kubectl apply -f deploy.yml, and in that we haven't defined any request or limit, like how many CPU want or how many maximum CPU or memory we want. So we can see it is giving a warning like uh, this deployment default nginx deployment has an specified CPU resource for containers. So it has used some default values for the Autopilot cluster. That's okay for that. As of now, we are not running anything much. So let's run. You can see it is pending only. As of now, we are seeing these our pods are pending. Now let's go with kubectl get nodes. We can see still there is no nodes, because now what will happen, Google will provision new nodes, so it will take some time because it's the first time we are deploying anything on the new cluster. That's why it is going to take some time, about 5-10 minutes it will take. Let's keep monitoring until it will deploy. You can see now it is showing creating the node pool, nap, I think node autopilot something, and this is a node pool. The value shown below will be updated. So once the node pool has been created, it will deploy our application also. I think it has started creating that. Now let's run again kubectl get nodes. Still we are waiting for that. It will take about some time. Pool has came up. I can see first of all it shows one node. Now it is showing two nodes. And if you say both are in ready status, you can see the age also. It is 15 second, it is 25 second. And now if I run kubectl get pods, it must be in running status. So it is creating cluster for this, and this is a running status. And let's see our another pods which are system pods, and we can see both all are getting created, pod initializing, some are running already. So it will just kept on creating all these things. We can see now it are some are container creating. So now once we deploy an application that is our personal application, then only GK Autopilot will create more node pool for you for your ports. So, and now once again I run this, so I can see there are two node running. So if I go to compute engine and go to VM instances, we can see there is no VM are available here. In even instance template, I don't have anything. If I go to instance group also, nothing is here because it is all managed by Google Cloud only. In Autopilot, you don't see anything here. So maybe you will surprised where is the nodes running, but it will running at the background. You cannot access that nodes. Even you will not find any option here also. If I go to cluster again and open this, there is no option to check any nodes because it is all Google managed. And this is my workload. And you can have the same option for the workloads also. Like I can go to this workload. And one more thing I want to show you. Suppose as of now There is one issue with this, like I cannot, if I go to quarters, this is my basically free trial. So in free trial, I have limited options only. As you can see, when I create autopilot cluster, it use SSD, and I have a quota of like 80%, like 250 GB. So I cannot create third node. If I try to scale my pods also, they will remaining pending state only. Let me show you what will happen. If I go to action and scale edit replicas, now let's create application replicas 6 and click, let me scale it. So what will happen, as of now my each pod is taking 500 CPU. So if I run kubectl get pods again, so you can see three are running, one two, okay, three are running and three are in pending state. It will remain in pending state only because I don't have any more quota and it will not create a new node, like new node. So if I run kubectl describe pod and this pod name, so you can see it is giving some errors, like first of all we don't have any nodes available, for the scheduling is getting failed. After that it tried to trigger pod, like pod tried scaling up, but we are seeing warning field scale up, cluster auto scaler node scale is up in US Central 1, and after that is saying GCE quota exceeded, pod is at the risk of being not being scheduled. So we have a quota exceeded because of this. So each node will take 100 GB and I have only 250 GB of quota available. That's why I cannot create a third node in autopilot. But if I'm using standard one, I can choose another disk type like standard one. In standard one, I have a 2 TB of quota, so I can create multiple nodes. But this is the issue in this autopilot free trial. I have limited options only. And after that, one more thing we can do, if we go to here and actions, and we can click on edit resource request. So it will show us the resource request until you define in your pod manifest. You can check here also. As of now, it is taking 500 CPU and memory taking 2 GB. So what can I do? I can say, okay, I want 100 CPU only, 100 MCPU, because my application is very small. Once I confirm this change, let me change RAM also, and let's click on save, confirm, and it is getting saved. Now if I go back here and run kubectl get pods, you can see all the pods will start running. You can see it is creating new pods, old will be deleted and new will be created. So I can see it is still pending. I think still there is no space available. Let me do one thing. So these are kind of troubleshooting you can do. I don't want, I'm just showing you. So if I do kubectl describe our node also, so you can find out how much resources it is taking. So this on this it is already on 96%. So I don't think it will like create new uh, pods. So what can I do if I run kubectl get pods? I have to delete one pod, then only it will create remaining two. Let me delete this kubectl delete pod. If I run now a kubectl get pods, it I think all will be start running now. So you can see it is creating new node pods now, and old will be deleted one. The remaining two, this one also being deleted because we have updated our configuration by updating resource limits and resource request, not limits but request. So like this, you can create a cluster and create all the things. And we don't have node pools available, as I have told you. We have only have like cluster which we have to run our resources. No, we don't need to do anything, not need to manage anything, all be taken care by Google only. So that's the beauty of autopilot. But if you want more options, you can just use standard cluster which have all the options which is like required for to run your application according to your needs. And we will see more options later on, like what are compute classes and all of that. So that's all from this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, just comment it down. I will drop my email ID. If you have any question, that drop like email to me. I will try to help if I know how to solve that. Thank you very much. Bye.